Chin Cat on Slack had a question about the whole going from the end effector to the wrist point and why you don't need everything else. So I want to show you how I figured out in my mind, because maybe it'll help someone else. So let's go with Mr. My arm is a robot. So here, I'll get my fingertip is an end effector. To my wrist, though, nothing in my hand is an actual joint, though, only my wrist. My wrist can twist, and my wrist can move up and down. And then I have, of course, an elbow joint, and my shoulder can do whatever it can do, kind of thing. So in this one, the wrist point, think of it right before the wrist twists and goes up and down, is the wrist point of the calculation in the inverse kinetics. So the question is say we know the end effector is, say, right there. How can we know exactly where this wrist point is? Because we don't know what these are. Now, if you think right here is where that wrist point is, that if our end effector is in this position and orientation, which means my index finger is right here in my room and pointing that way, the only place that this could be is right there, right? Because everything passed through. If I turn it, now I'm failing on the orientation. If I go up and down, I'm failing on the position and the orientation, right? So the thing to remember is this has to lock. Now you're like, wait, well, once again, what about these two? Well, look, this wrist center is locked right here. These two, there's multiple ways for me to keep that wrist right there. But notice, if this finger is right there in that space, in that orientation, no matter how I move this to get that finger there, this wrist is always in the exact same place. Because this position in the room, I'm talking in the room too, right? Like, that's different because the point is higher in Z and whatever I want to call that way or whatever. So the way to think about it is, since the only place it can move is right here on this wrist, it's all locked in right here, that this stuff can move before the wrist. And hence the problem is because you got to figure that out later. But this to this relationship, if you know exactly where it's pointing and where it is in the room, this relationship here is always theoretically the same, and that's why you can calculate it. This point depends on that point. This point can also depend on this point. That's the beauty of this, of splitting it. This point can now depend on either one. So we know this one, so we can get here, and since we now know this one, we can get here. Hence the inverse kinetics problem. Hopefully this somewhat helps. Anyways, good luck, because I'm still not done with the project. The rest is hard.